Welcome to Voices on Transformation. Here I interview men and women who work with transformation, NLP, hypnosis, coaches, and so many more things. Today, I have the great pleasure of having Mike Grafstein and myself. I'm Omong Norien. Welcome to this episode and welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here with you.
We have been looking forward to this for quite some time now.
Yes, we have.
And I have looked at your website to
Hmm.
do a little preparation for this.
Hmm.
And I wonder if you would like to tell me a little bit of your journey into this because you work with massage, but so many more things. So we're not putting a label, but
Right.
what got you into the thing that you are working with?
So I've always wanted to be in the helping. I think there's a lot. When I was younger, I played hockey. I thought for people who know, I thought I was going to be the next Bobby Orr. And Bobby Orr was a defenseman in the National Hockey League. And to me, best player ever to play the game. And that's just my opinion. But the thing was, I did not have the opportunity, and probably I did not have the skill, but I got hurt a lot. And in the end, as things progressed, years progressed, I ended up being more on the helping side with sports. So when I was in high school, I ended up like kind of patching friends up and that type of thing. And that first led me into athletic therapy, and that is working in a clinic or working in the field with the team. And for me, my avenue at that time was working with the team. So I did a lot of work with a lot of sports, hockey, rugby, but I spent about 17 years in soccer as a head therapist with a friend of mine, got to travel Europe. And a lot of those times I was on my own as the only medical person, and I had to figure out, without being in a clinic with proper equipment, um, how to patch people up. Even with the training that I had, how to get the athletes that I was working with, the teenagers, the male or female teenagers, how can I get them onto the field without them having to re-injure? And so I did that for a fair bit of time. And then um, the one thing I wasn't comfortable with was truly working with back and necks. And that's why I went into massage. And for me, I've always seen massage as a proactive thing. And then after my soccer was done, I started doing more work in the clinic, and I was finding that I was not able to I was like missing a step, or I wasn't getting where I needed to do. So I got into this thing called matrix repatterning, which is absolutely phenomenal. And it works differently in the sense that we are working with an entire body. And one of the things we say is structure determines function. And basically, when we receive an impact, we get an injury, it affects the building blocks or the structure of the body, and that is bone and the soft tissue around it.
You
And
had a
then
very,
what?
I'm sorry, you had a very good description when you compared it to a guitar and the strings.
Right, right. That's a good way of looking at it. So if we look at a guitar and the strings, if the string breaks because the structure of the guitar has changed, like it's been hit and that structure changes, you can change the strings as much as you want, but the strings are going to continue to break until you um, fix the structure of the guitar. So what we do is we look for these um, areas of tension. Some people call it restrictions, and it's usually around bone or the bone itself. And once we are able to facilitate the change in the structure, things can work again. So I'll give you somewhat of an example. So I work with a lot of concussions, and many times when I do an initial assessment, the athlete or whoever I'm working with comes in with, say, a headache, or they can't turn their neck. And part of what we do is we look in the body, and we're looking for these areas of restriction. And many times when I just say work the lower body, like the shin or the thigh, they can now have more range of motion at the neck. Their symptoms can come down because basically we're connected from head to toe.
So when you,
And
for example, work on the hip or shine or
yep,
something, the whole body changes so it aligns with what it's supposed to be.
yes, and that's why I say structure determines function. So if something in one area of the body is restricted, you can release that, and that can release something else somewhere else in the body. And I love it because it's a very soft touch, a very soft approach, as compared to doing tissue work when you're literally a lot of times beating up the body. And some people love it, and all the power to them. I like this form of treatment as a base to everything else that I do. It just makes everything else so much easier. And sometimes I'll just use that system on its own, or I'll combine it with other things, depending on what I have in front of me and what the person wants, what their goals are.
What I hear you are saying is that it's very much less invasive than
100%.
because you're not putting that much pressure that other modalities would have. But I also noticed that you are educated in craniosacral work.
Craniosacral therapy.
Thank
Yes.
you, thank you.
No problem.
I'll
Yeah,
keep away from that word from now on. I'll let you pronounce it. But because that is also a method that is very non-invasive. So how do you, would you sometimes combine these and how would that work?
100%. So with the craniosacral therapy, the theory and the thing behind it is, in our heads, we have the bones, they have the sutures. And with craniosacral therapy, the theory is that there's slight movement. And when that movement is off, it can affect the entire body with different symptoms. So sometimes you can do the craniosacral therapy, but if you're not getting the results, then I would go to, well, I usually start with the matrix repatterning first, because if I'm changing structure, then it's possible just by doing that alone, I can get that kind of movement. But I will combine, yeah, definitely. And it's incredibly, it's powerful. People with chronic headaches, migraines, those types of things, very powerful for. I've had, what's interesting is I've had people who have had quote unquote anxiety want matrix repatterning because they've heard it's good for anxiety. But the thing is, I have to have something physical for
Hmm.
them. So I stay within my scope of practice to treat them with the matrix. And it's amazing because many people feel so much lighter, feel freer after they've had the matrix repatterning treatment. I get excited all the time when I see those types of results, because people are seeing that they can be pain free if they've been suffering for such a long time.
I'm very fascinated because it sounds like maybe I'm wrong, and you please correct me. It sounds like you can both have patients with pain, but also patients with some sort of disease that they cannot really put a name to in their body. They're feeling something, but it's they're out of sorts, out of without being able to clarify it enough.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, your body can speak volumes for you.
Hmm.
And when you can work at that level, just even manually, and and it's different for everybody. Some people can actually feel energy, some people can feel changes. while the work is being done. And sometimes what happens too, with actually one of these young children that I was working with had a chronic hip issue. I didn't even touch his hip. I worked on one of his shins, and he got up and he walked around, and it's like he said to me, "You unhooked my hip." And I'm going, I didn't even touch his hip, but that's the magic of this treatment. And I get excited. I still get blown away by the results because it's exciting when you see. Um, and this is me getting emotional.
Yeah, please go on, go on.
When you see people like this one woman who lost her husband during COVID, put on a ton of weight, could barely walk. And you hear 6 weeks later, she got out of her car without her cane to greet her son. That's powerful. Like in it for you and I, it may be something simple to do, but this was something she couldn't do for like 2 or 3 years. She always had to have her cane. And when she told me that, I mean, I almost lost it. And I had to treat her differently because she couldn't lie down. And then she's telling me now that she can cook standing up without back pain. She had done a lot of other types of therapies, but it seemed to be the matrix that did the trick for her. That is powerful.
That is
So,
so beautiful to hear. And
right.
I would imagine that this would also help her if she so wishes to eventually lose weight because she can move again.
Well, and I think that has to be her choice,
Of
right?
course, of course.
Right.
But what I'm
And
thinking now, it's possible when before it
100% it
was
is. 100%.
impossible. And I totally agreed. It's her choice. But when you get sort of get stuck in your own body and
Yes.
you meet somebody like you who could get you out of that, it's a
Hmm.
whole world of new possibilities because you're not stuck any longer.
Well, too, and I think too, that is so fascinating is seeing the change in emotions from almost some of them, sometimes some of the people I treat, they've done so many other things and they see me and it's not just me, it's the treatment too, like but they're open to doing something different and then how grateful they are afterwards, but how happier. Like you just there's that sense of, I can do this now. Like
Mm.
I can't put words to it. For some people, it's something you have to experience. But it's powerful. Something they're so gentle, that's so incredibly powerful.
We people in general, I find, we tend to think that if it doesn't hurt or not if it's not really invasive and you have to do a ton of work, it
Yeah,
doesn't count. It's not for real. But you and
yeah,
I, we know that that's not so. The
yeah,
gentleness of touch could
yeah,
shift so many things. And that goes for hypnotherapy as well.
yeah.
That's also
Agreed.
something that is very non-invasive
$100%.
because we both studied it in different places, but
Hmm.
you talk, but your client is the one who allows your words to make a difference in their lives because they say, "Oh, I like this." Maybe not in those words, but they will never accept anything because they're in total control all the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I think you said that you don't mix the two of your
No.
massages.
So what I do when I treat, to me I'm very, yeah. So I guess I do more when I'm working clinically, manually, it's more, I would say, conversational, if you want to
Mhm.
call it hypnosis. I do have them visualize and see themselves when they treat. One of the things I do when I actually am working on somebody, I've got a picture spinning in my mind with their end result when I work on them.
Beautiful.
And I like to transfer that or say that to them. One of the things you can do before, it's simple, you can do before you go to bed is just actually see yourself doing what you really want to be doing, in that sense. But as far as doing, treating them and then doing a uh, formal hypnosis session with them, um, I will refrain from that because the reason they're actually seeing me is for the injury or for the massage or whatever. And where I am and where I practice in the province of Ontario, we have very strict codes of conflict of interest. And if somebody is there for me to do um, massage. That's what they're there for. If they're interested in anything else, I just say, you can take a look at my website, and go from there. So from where I am, I draw the line, um, because I still want to work with my hands for a couple more years until I'm more into doing the hypnosis.
But it also makes sense that you are respectful and follow the laws and procedures. That's normal. That's what we do. And we should say that it looks different from place to place and country to country.
100%. 100%. I think one of the big things I've really been learning, I would say in the last couple of months, is the choice of words that you say and the words that you say out loud. I realized because of how what I went through when I was younger, what I grew up with, um, that putting pause or saying positive things, uh, not in the sense of, oh, you've always got to think positive, but just being aware of the words that come out of your mouth, are very key to what you start to see around you. Like the other day, I made a less than positive comment to my wife about money. And she wasn't happy about that. And then when she called me on it, I realized, yeah, I'm doing one of those self-fulfilling prophecies where I'm putting out something negative, and I'm like, crap, she was right. And it's like when you're aware of that and then you learn from it and you start putting stuff out, and then you learn how to be appreciative
Yeah.
of where you are, what you're doing. Um,
You
eh, you
do
know,
create your own reality with the
right,
words you choose to use.
right,
For sure. Um, I can never do that. And if you repeat that enough
right.
times, you will never do that specific thing.
Hmm.
I'm also in this uh, process of changing words from um, instead of I'm really bad at this, I will say, oh, I'm learning more and more, and it goes better and better each time.
Well, one of the things when I was studying NLP was the four levels of competence,
Hmm.
where you start and you really don't know that you don't know that you can't do it or you're not good enough, and then you do it and you realize, and anyways. So whenever I find that I start to, let's say, go backwards a bit, I put a stop on it and I say, where are you in the process and what do I need to, what do I need to do uh, to move it forward? And that's been, quote unquote, a bit of a game changer because,
Hmm.
if I can see that in myself, one of the things I like when I'm working with younger kids is to really, really emphasize that to them, and not only to them, but to the parents and even coaches. And when that happens, there's always a light that just kind of goes
Yeah.
on, and then you start to see change. And
It is
it,
very
it's
powerful. It is
it
very
is
powerful.
powerful.
And you have
So,
enough, I'm sorry, you have enough examples about people who I'm thinking of one particular story I heard, and I don't remember who and what very much, but he it was a young man. He was coming late for a math test, a very complicated one, really complicated at university. So he did not hear that these two examples, that nobody had ever solved them. So he went home and took that with him, and he came back and he turned in his paper, and he had solved one of them because
Mm.
he had not heard that you weren't supposed to solve it.
Right,
And there are a lot of stories like that when you can actually do things you didn't think was possible because nobody told you. So you didn't know that, and you would go ahead and do the work.
for sure, for sure.
And that's very different from positive thinking.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
I know, as you said before, your training wanted to be this or person in when you started out your athletic um, journey and you got injured many times.
Yep.
How do you think that, um, or how did that make a difference for you when you were seeing patients because
So,
you knew something about pain?
100%. So, before the age of, I think, see, this is one of the things I can't remember. I had, I think, before the age of 12 or 14, at least 8 or 9 concussions. Two of them I remember specifically because I remember the before and I remember the after. So I was actually knocked out. Um, so yeah, so as far as pain, significant headaches, dizziness. I was hit from behind when I think I was 24, and I didn't have all the typical symptoms of headache and all that kind of. I was in a fog for most of my school year, so I don't really remember
Wow.
it. I remember being there, but I actually don't remember doing the work. And one day I woke up and I go, "Oh," and everything was normal. I don't know how else to explain it. So when I work with people, can say, and the fact that I literally I've been injured from head to toe. I've had stitches. I've had at least one broken bone. I've had my knees operated on. So I can appreciate when people come in when something has happened to them because I've been through the same process. And I can also appreciate what goes on in the mind as far as the less than positive things of not being able to contribute either to a team, to work, um, and to be happy and to be around other people. So I've experienced that, and that allows me, from my perspective, to really hone in and work towards something with the person that I'm working with because I've kind of been there in a sense. Maybe not to the degree that they have, but I have an appreciation because I know what I've gone through and I can appreciate what they're going through.
I think it's important to realize that yes, pain is really debilitating, but the
Hmm.
mental side of living with chronic pain can
Hmm.
sometimes be worse than the pain itself because it saps the life out of you.
Well, let's just say that I've had the pain so strong that there were a few times where I was questioning things. Um, But I'll also say when you are around supportive people, it makes a really big difference,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, yeah.
So, what have your own injuries taught you that no textbook never could?
How long do we have? Um, the one thing I've kind of had no choice to is to really respect my body and really listen to it. Um, I, uh, yeah, a few, it's, it's been about 7 years. I'll try to make a long story short. Um, I was really fortunate to be selected as a massage therapist for the World University Games for Canada to be part of the medical team. And my conditioning, my shape, and how I was not the greatest at the time. So I decided I needed to do 3 months of good intensive workout. Um, so one day I was on the treadmill and I did something to my knee and I didn't think much of it. And I went back a couple days later and I made whatever I had worse. And I almost did not go because I had torn in the knee to the meniscus, my medial and lateral. And I thought my mind was stronger than my body. And, it almost cost me that opportunity. I was fortunate that I had enough time to do the rehab that I needed to do. Um, and I went, which was good. But it really taught me to respect the body. And if the body is telling you something, listen to it. Because to me, your body knows more than your mind. I don't know how else to put it.
I think you're putting it in excellent words because I find that we tend to override our bodies so very often because we want to do something, just like yourself. We want to do
Hmm.
this. So
Hmm.
we don't rest up. We don't do cardio or whatever, or we
Hmm.
don't, or we go to work when we really should be home resting when we are
Hmm.
sick.
Hmm.
Because, well, I'm strong. I can override this, but it never pays off, only in the negative.
Yeah. So where I used to do, like I used to jog, I don't. I'm very fortunate. I do a lot of hiking when the opportunity arises with my wife. I'm very fortunate where I live that we're 5, 10 minutes away from forested areas. They call them tracks where I am. And they can be challenging, really hilly. And I love to zen out there. Like I'm very fortunate in that respect. And it allows me to come down and be calm and just be grateful.
What would you say to a person who is used to overriding his or her body? And it does not always have to be with, exercise, but in general, what would how would you frame uh,
Hmm.
something to encourage a person to listen to his or her body more than they are doing at the current time?
Okay. A car cannot run without gas or oil. And if you are trying to run without gas or oil, it'll break down. It's that simple. And that's happened to me. So, trust your body. I mean, people say it. I think I also do believe sometimes you actually have to experience it to truly understand that. Um,
That's true. That's true.
I think that's so I can invite people, suggest things, and at the same time, I think a lot of things in life have to be experienced. And until you experience that, and the younger you are, the better. Um, I kind of wish, in a sense, that I had learned from my first incident with my knee, um, which was so many years ago, more than the 7 years, quite a few. But I didn't listen, but that taught me a major lesson, like a major lesson.
I was going to
So,
ask you what, if you could give your younger self an advice, what would it be? But I guess you just took the wind out of my sails because I think you
sorry.
just, I think you already answered that question.
Well, that's too funny.
This has been an absolute blast talking to you. And I hope the listener or the viewer has had as much fun as you and I. And if somebody wants to get in contact with you or come and visit you, where could they find you? And I will put that
Just
also
yeah,
beneath
the
the video so they can reach out. But where should they reach for or what tool?
you know what? The best thing is just go to my website, MikeGrafstein.com. It has pretty much everything that I do. Um, and go from there.
And so
So,
what's in the near future for you? Anything fun? Or then in the more distant future?
you know what? I am actually drawing
A
uh
blank.
a blank. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one.
Sorry.
You know what? If I were going to say any more, uh, just helping more people, and maybe on a bigger scale.
I think that's a
So,
beautiful way to end our conversation. Thank you so much, and we will be in touch soon and have a lovely evening.
well, Amon, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you and be with you. It's been a while. And thank you. And all the best to you.
Thank
And
you.
I absolutely love um, watching watching what you're putting out there. There's a lot of really good nuggets and some really interesting people that you've been interviewing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be part of it.
It was my pleasure, and thank you. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.